Up, guys? If you guys are checking in, let me know where you're from. What's up, Lee?
What's up? What's
Yo,
up?
what's up, my man? How you doing?
Getting that little chin strap going, man.
I feel you. Hey, you gonna come? You're gonna come out looking like me, bro.
I don't know if I got the genes for that, man. This is the most it gets.
Right, I got you. I got you. How's everything else been for you?
Pretty good, man. Been busier than ever during this coronavirus. It's
Okay.
crazy. What
With
about you, man?
with work or with real estate or just both?
Both, man. It's been crazy.
That's good.
Been
That's good.
crazy.
It's been kind of slow for us. I mean, we still have a couple flips, but
Yeah.
it keeps me busy. But wholesaling, I mean, I've helped a couple people sell deals, but for us
Gotcha.
ourselves, we haven't really had a lot of shit come in. I mean, we've been getting a lot of leads, but just nothing falling through right now.
Same here. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the wholesale side's a little slower, but like same thing here. I got flipped. The one next door I told you about, I tried to wholesale. I just decided to flip it instead.
I got you.
So
How's
I'm
it coming
working on it.
along?
It's good. Foundation guy delayed the project quite a bit. He kept saying, "Oh, I'll be there next week, then next week," and you really
Ah,
can't do anything since until the foundation is done, right? So, but now it's going full steam ahead right now.
got you. Got you.
Yeah,
That's awesome, man. That's good to hear. So, if for people, obviously, I know who you are. Let's
correct.
just run through like a quick intro: who you are, how you got into real estate, and what you're doing now. For the
Okay,
people.
so for all you guys that don't know, my name is Adriel Shu. So I live out in Beaumont, Texas, about an hour and a half east of Houston, and I'm 28 years old. I think I'm same age as Derek, right? You're 28 as well.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes, we both started in 2016. Actually, both started in real estate at the same time. A little bit about me: from California, born and raised. Went to Atlanta for college at Georgia Tech, and then came out to Texas shortly after that in 2015, and got started in 2016. And like Derek, I did some wholesaling, some flipping. That's how I started out. That's kind of uh, what you learn, right? Kind of had some similar mentors and kind of stuff like that. My first deal actually was a burr, a straight up a full burr. And after that, when I was doing the showings for tenants, that's when I realized, man, this is not worth the work for maybe $100 a month cash flow.
Yeah.
Like even after you budget for reserves and all that. So from there, I knew from the get go I had to scale. So from the get go, I knew multifamily was the end game. It's just so hard to initially get that mindset to understand those concepts. So I went into wholesaling and flipping first, even though at the back of my mind I knew multifamily is what I want to do, But short on capital, fresh out of college, so had to get that quick dough. And I think there's nothing better than wholesaling and flipping to get some quick
Yeah,
capital.
and
Yeah.
and so like what were the like why even real estate, right? Like why was that even on
Okay.
your
Yeah.
mind? Because I know you like even now you work in oil and gas and stuff like that, and you still
Correct.
do this. I would say part time or maybe half and half, two full time jobs, however you want to put it. But like, what
Correct.
initially got you interested into it, and what was like that first couple deals like?
Yeah. Yeah. So, as Derek pointed out, I still do have a full time job in the oil and gas industry. That's what my background is in. But after that corporate job, even back in the internships, I knew I wanted to do something different. And for those of you guys that don't know, I like to travel a lot. So my first thing was, what can I do either remotely or enough passive income that I can manage from afar so I could travel? So my whole goal was reverse engineered off traveling because that's how much I liked it, at the time. And I looked at a bunch of stuff: drop shipping, e-commerce, real estate. The only thing that really made sense to me, like the concept in general, was real estate. It's pretty simple: buy it for X, put in Y, sell it for Z. Because when you get into like e-commerce and drop shipping, SEO, and all that,
Yes.
I'm not a tech guy, so it
No.
was just too complicated. I know it works, but real estate just made the most sense, and I liked how it was there, physical. And growing up, actually, my dad always would look at houses. He always get the realtor magazines back when they had those little boxes you can take the magazines out.
Yeah.
And you look at houses. He never really pulled the trigger and did stuff in terms of investing, but he was always looking at houses, looking at prices, and I kind of got that off him. So I just figured I'd go do real estate.
Gotcha, gotcha. And
Yeah.
so you're doing this. I think we met. I mean, it seems like yesterday, bro. It's been like 2 or 3 years. we've
Correct.
done quite a few, wholesale deals and stuff together.
Yep.
I always say, like, out of all my friends, you're one of the smartest because you're like that life hack guy, bro. Like the 4 hour work week, like you think
Yeah.
different. You know what I mean?
Efficiency kind of thing.
Yeah, and you always know like those gray areas, and like you said with travel and credit, like I'm always hitting you up and stuff. So like that's
Appreciate it.
amazing. So you're doing this, you're working your job, you're doing wholesaling stuff like that, flipping as well. And then
Correct.
what did it look like when you decided to get into multifamily, and then like what has that journey been like? Because I know it's a lot different than single
Correct.
family.
Yeah. So when I started thinking how I could take those wholesaling and flipping marketing techniques and apply them to multifamily. So, yes, it is a very different beast in terms of finding deals, but there's a little, I guess, sweet spot for those smaller deals that a lot of the bigger players don't really care about, like the deals under 50 units, because all the people I know in the industry, they want at least 100 units, right? And that's for good reason. I'll get into that later, because when you have on-site management, it changes everything. But for the smaller mom and pops, that kind of sweet spot, all the big players aren't looking at it, and then all your, single family rental guys aren't looking at it. They maybe at most looking at a duplex, quadplex. So those you can still kind of take that marketing approach and attack those venues, and that's what I did. Because once you start getting in the game, everyone tells you the only way to get deals is broker relationships. Broker relationships. You got to be the inside. It's an unfair game when you get into multifamily. It's all about connections, right? But you and I were so used to the wholesaling single family side where we go proactively market, cold call, send out letters to get our deals, that me waiting for a broker to finally like me and give me a deal,
Yeah.
I still worked in those relationships, but at the same time say, hey, what can I do on my own end to be proactive? So I started, looking, the same thing you do for wholesaling, guys, driving for dollars, pull on lists, and you just send letters, cold call, just nothing different. You just got to know different terminology when you talk to the seller, but that's what I did. I just drove around, and then I finally just sent some letters out, and my first deal came from a direct mail campaign from a Driving for Dollars. That's how I bought my first multifamily.
Oh, nice, nice. So
Yeah.
let's break that down, right? Because
All right.
I have a lot of questions myself as well. So you're driving for dollars. You see, like, what? First off, when you're driving for dollars, I'm assuming it's like a house. But what were the things that stood out to you about this apartment that made you want to reach out?
Gotcha. Well, I just noticed that I'm on my other Instagram account on this live, not my apartment's one.
Yeah,
But
no, you're good. I'll
yeah.
tag both when we're done. You're good.
Okay, gotcha. So people can get, because I drop a lot of value on my apartment's Instagram page, right? Of like content on how to talk to sellers and stuff. So I hope everyone get that free game from there versus this personal one. But yeah, back to that. So I was just driving around the neighborhood. Looking for apartments because there's no list you can really pull. List Source kind of does do some, but at least in Texas, they don't pull the county classifications for multifamily correctly.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of hard to get an actual List Source list. Or I think when I did it, it was very incomplete. Like I knew properties down the street that weren't on that list, if that makes sense, right?
Gotcha.
So I was driving around, and so what I like to target is nicer areas. I would consider a B class. So, in commercial, you have A, B, C, and D based on how nice the neighborhood is and how nice the property is. And I wanted something a little nicer, but not luxury, right? Just safer play, more appreciation, that kind of thing. So I drove those neighborhoods that I knew around where I lived. Just wrote addresses down, driving for dollars, straight up.
Like legit, yeah.
Yep, go on like your county's website, county's appraisal district. So for me, it was Jefferson County, and then found the mailing address. And I knew this guy was mom and pop because it was under his personal name still.
Oh, yeah.
And he had the address out in Florida. So I knew, okay, he's not local. It's under a personal name. He's owned it for over 10 years. Your ideal target, right?
Yeah.
So I think I sent that letter out, start of 2017. January 2017, I sent that first contact out.
Gotcha.
And he reached back out to me an email. But at the time, I think he wanted, like 600,000 or close to 600,000 for it. And I was running my numbers. I was like, man, I need like 450.
Gotcha.
Right?
And what was the size of the property?
Oh yeah, so this is a 14 units.
Okay.
So it's it's not a huge deal, but different beast than your duplex or triplex, right? So
yeah.
That's why I was like, okay, that's probably a good first step. And that's before I really networked in the multifamily space. I knew single family investors like yourself and our friend group out in Houston. So I just was doing it all on my own. Didn't know supposed to be a team sport once you get to that level. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, 14 units, and then I was just he emailed me. I made an offer, but back then I didn't really know how to analyze deals as well. I just took the numbers he had at face value and said, okay, those are like the hardcore numbers.
Oh,
I didn't
got you.
realize that his expenses were high
Hmm.
and that you could reduce them. I just said, man, those are his expenses. That's what it's got to be, you know, like
Yeah.
because he was running, I think, at like 75% expenses compared to his income.
Gotcha.
And the rule of thumb is about 50% is how much an apartment should run.
Gotcha.
So at the time, I didn't know that. I was like, there's no way this is going to be a deal, right? No way. But I shot him an offer at 450. You know, obviously he declined that.
Yeah.
But I kept in touch with him, kept following up. Not like every month, but maybe every quarter, every 6 months, trying to see if he would, you know, move. And then once I started learning more and how to analyze it more, I started realizing, oh crap, this is a deal. You know, like those expenses are high. That water bill shouldn't be that high. He's providing cable and internet to the tenants when no one else is in the area. Stuff you can cut, right?
Yeah.
So that's when I came back to him. I was like, oh look, let's do like 590, right? But then by that time, that was like, I want to say, early 2018.
Okay.
So
So about a year's went by.
Yeah, a
And
little over a
so you
year.
probably talked to him about 4 times by now, right?
Probably about 3 times. Not
About 3.
that much. Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't pursuing it that hard because at the time too, I was like, man, how am I gonna get this funded? All
Got
this
you.
stuff,
Just
right?
kind of learning though, get your feet wet, but
Yeah.
you're still putting in offers
Yeah.
and taking action.
Putting offers, right? It's kind of the same principles from wholesaling, but you just take it to multifamily, the smaller ones. But yeah, eventually, you know, I said, hey, let's do 590. But at that point, I already got a 600K offer
Damn.
on the property, and I was like, oh man, he's like, now I want 650. So I actually went up. My price kept going up. That wasn't really negotiation. It was kind of me trying to meet outbid everyone else.
And did you actually ever know? Like, did he for sure have offers, or he was bluffing, or you didn't know?
No, he was a pretty transparent guy. He was a Coast Guard captain. He was
Okay,
a strict he wasn't a little, you know, he wasn't a sleazy kind of guy. He was a by the book guy his whole life kind of thing.
Gotcha.
And no, so you know, we finally settled on 630. It was the price.
Okay, gotcha.
And he was dragging his feet too because someone had come in at 670 cash for
Damn.
the property. But I guess that guy didn't move quick enough, or he had felt some hesitation, so he ended up signing the LOI with me for 630.
Now you've got him to agree. Now, what does like contract and everything look like? Because I know a lot of similarities, but a lot of difference as well. So, like, what did those differences look like?
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, in single family, when you get it under contract, you can pull out a check or type up your one pager and lock it up. So, in multifamily, we usually start with a LOI or a letter of intent, and it's kind of just spells out everything that would be in the contract, but in 1 or 2 pages. Just the key information, right? The property, how much you're paying for it, how you're paying for it, who's paying for closing costs, how much time you get to do inspections, when are you going to close? Kind of like the basic timeline of things, and basic numbers, who's paying for the broker, who's paying closing costs, that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
But the difference is a letter of intent. So even if I typed it up, signed it, and sent it over to him, and he signs it and sends it back and executed, it's non-binding. So it's not like a contract.
Right. Gotcha.
A contract is binding, like a TREC contract or whatnot. But a letter of intent is just a non-binding agreement that you intend to purchase the property.
Gotcha.
So normally after that gets executed, you get the actual contract done 3 to 5 days later.
Okay.
And they call that PSA, or purchase and sales agreement. Is what they call it.
You're drawing this up, or him and his lawyers, or I mean, I guess it could go either way depending on the seller. But how did it work in this situation?
Yeah. So in this situation, he had a broker, a commercial broker that he's used before on his other deals that he wanted just to help guide the transaction.
Gotcha.
So he has access to the Texas Association of Realtors forms. So TAR has a form, I think it's like 2141 or something. That's the commercial contract.
Commercial.
Basically.
Okay.
Commercial version of TREC. Yeah.
How many pages is it? Is it long as fuck too? I'm assuming like TREC's 10 pages. So
yeah, I think it's the same as TREC. It's about 9-10 pages. Pretty similar stuff, right? But obviously only realtors can access it. That's fine for these smaller deals, but I mean, just in general, for these bigger ones that most people syndicate, these 100+ deals, every PSA is custom drafted by
Right.
lawyers on both sides. Yeah,
Gotcha.
it's
And then
not
they
a generic
kind of
template.
meet in the middle, and then you would finalize the final
Correct.
version.
Correct. So for those bigger deals, there's a lot more, closing costs or stuff like that because you're paying lawyers to create a contract. I'm
Gotcha.
sure they have like rough templates they go off of, but yeah. But for these small ones, you can just use a generic, whatever state you're in. But for us in Texas, there's a TAR form that you can just use as a PSA, and
Okay.
then so we signed that, got that executed, and that's when the clock does start. That's when I think I put 30 days was what I had for due diligence
Okay.
for like
So that was like your option period, and then did you have
yeah,
to
for
put down
inspections.
did you have to put down option and earnest money as well, or what did that look like?
There's not really option money in commercial real estate. It's just earnest money. So I put down, I forgot, it wasn't much. Like maybe relative to the price, it wasn't much. Maybe less
Gotcha.
than, maybe about 10%.
Gotcha. Okay.
Wait, no, 1%. My bad. Sorry, I don't know what I'm saying.
1%.
1% is
Gotcha.
pretty standard.
Gotcha.
So that's like 6,000
Six, I
bucks.
about to say so 6,000.
Yeah. So then you just got to start moving, getting your inspectors out there, your contractors, and everybody. So I mean, obviously, this is my first time doing it, so I was a little.
Yeah, you don't even
I
know where to
wasn't.
start. But now
Yeah.
say that situation happened. We got the contract back. Say he signs it tonight. What are you doing in the morning? Like, who's the first person you're calling? Just contractors
Correct.
in the city and like looking at getting like just start trimming fat, or what all are we doing? Like verifying
Yeah.
information or
So I guess for me, the biggest thing was just the property condition, right? Was just getting people, plumber out there to check the plumbing, electrician, general stuff, and then obviously I wouldn't be out there to walk the units, but you got to kind of schedule that in advance, right? Because you have to give tenants 24-hour notice. You can't just go barging in. So he has to put up their property management had to put out notices, and I got to meet with the broker on a set date so I can walk all the units inside just to get an idea of everything, right? So that's mainly just getting everyone lined up because you want them to do the inspection as quick as they can because then they take time to make their reports and stuff, right? You've gone through it. Most plumbers, electricians, we'll get you the report in 2 to 3 days. Well, business days also. So
yeah, right.
so once it's locked up, it might take them 3 or 4 days to get out there, right? Because unless you got people that work for you all the time, they can't just drop everything and go out and inspect it, right? They schedule you probably 4 days out, 5 days out, a plumber, electrician, then they inspect. So that eats up almost 2 weeks right there. And I didn't know that back then, but there's another component. It's called the lease audit. Is where you audit all the leases. Because
Oh, okay.
in the multifamily game, some shady stuff that people do is they try to lease up a bunch of units about 3 to 6 months before they sell to make it look like, 95% occupied, all this stuff. So you got to check, did they screen those tenants properly? Are they on month to month? That kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Or did they just shove some friends and people in there to boost the numbers? You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
But I didn't know that.
So did you do a lease audit on this
No,
deal?
I did not.
Okay. So, hey, but that's good though,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's
Correct.
why we're doing this, because like I wouldn't have known, my dumbass wouldn't have done it either. So it's like,
Correct.
you know what I mean? So that's why we're doing this, is so people know. So we got that. We got the inspection. We're moving.
Correct.
We should do a lease audit, but we didn't on this one. Were there some things that you guys found in the inspection, and then what did the reports? How did it come back? And I see somebody's asking about money. Guys, hold your questions to the end because we're probably going to answer all your questions, and then we'll do a Q&A to like the last 10, 15 minutes when we get to like 8:15ish, 8:20. But yeah.
Yeah. So another thing I forgot, right from the get-go, even before you get stuff under contract, really once LOI is signed, you want to start reaching out to your lenders because for these multifamily deals, they take a while. There's a lot of moving parts, at least for the lender side of things, to approve a loan. Especially once you get in the bigger deals, we're using agency debt like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which is the most common lenders. Those are at least 60 days, usually about 90 days for them to get everything together.
Gotcha. So is that who you went to? Is just like a small bank? Like, who do you call to get 600 grand like overnight?
So,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. So for most apartments that are bigger, that the loan amount is over $1 million, everyone goes with the government, right? Freddie Mae or Freddie Mac, because their terms are unbeatable. Like the lowest interest rates, the best terms on the planet. But this little pocket of stuff that's under $1 million, that's where it gets tricky. That's where it gets tough to really get loans because no one wants to touch them because they're too small for the big boys and they're too big for the banks, right?
Yeah.
So your best option, guys, for these smaller deals when you get started is your local credit unions because they're more flexible, they're smaller, there's less red tape, so you can kind of work with them. And that's what came in clutch for me on closing this deal. Was I went out to a local credit union, literally 2 seconds from my house actually, and they had never lent on an apartment before. The biggest thing was like a duplex or some new constructions, right? Like a fourplex. So, but they ran with it. So they're investor friendly.
But how did they just run with it, bro? Because first off, like you've got the facial hair going, you look a little bit older. But normally, like I know you've told me you've even been on appointments and people are like, bro, you look like you're 12, you're not gonna buy it. How did you convince a bank who's never done this loan?
Correct.
You look 20, lower 20s, which is good for you when you get older. But how do we convince them to do a 600,000 loan to this young ass kid, right? Like how did they do that?
So luckily, I actually had a fellow investor introduce us.
Okay.
So most of these credit unions, us investors use them for, refinances, right? But I set up a time, and you got to go in there prepared. Like, so what I did, because that was the one I ended up with, but I was reaching out to other commercial brokers at the time, right? Because I wasn't limiting to myself to one person. Mm-hmm. But when I reached out, I had like a packet of information already. I had kind of the current situation and like what I plan on doing with the property, kind of all that lined up already, so they could see, oh, he's serious, right? He's got rental comps in the area of what the rent should be. He's got a plan on reducing that water bill because the owner pays for water. All these things add up, and just also showing your experience, even though it's not multifamily, just some real estate experience. It's not the best, but it kind of helps a little bit. And most kind of what you want to have on file all the time is your own personal financial statement, a PFS. A lot of lenders ask for that, right? Hard money even. You just got to keep one updated. I say it's hard to update it, right? Because when we're buying and selling the volume we're at, it changes every day what our quote-unquote net worth is, right?
Yeah.
Because we own a house that's worth $100K, but we bought it for 20. But just keep that updated, because that's the first thing you send out, your PFS to all these lenders, and then just details on the property, the purchase price, the LOI, so they can see all these. I was working with about 2 commercial brokers, one in New York, one in California, and then the local credit union.
Okay.
To see who can get me the best terms, right? And obviously ended up being the credit union. So that's who I rolled with. But they said they would loan 80%. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say real quick, when you went in, are you just showing them a PowerPoint or just like a portfolio binder? Like what are you showing them?
I was actually pretty low key of it. I just pulled some stuff up on my phone, and I was like, I can email you all this information if you want. It was more of an introductory talk with him, right? And he said, yeah, I'll take a look at it. Send me an email. Let him look at it on his own time because he's busy all the time. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of just how it went. Luckily it's such a small credit union. There's only about a few branches in the area. Gotcha. So it's not that much distance between you, the person you're talking to, and then like the actual CEO. They're all just like in the same office, right?
Gotcha. So real quick too, another question is, so he's looking at the numbers doing the loan. What is the projected value, right? I don't know if you guys in multifamily still call it ARV. Like what is the projected cap, or like what is that called, and what did it look like on this deal?
Gotcha. Yeah, so valuing apartments are a little different than valuing single family homes. It's based off of what we call a cap rate versus a single family just comps. A cap rate is really just like a multiplier of how much it's worth based on the income. So in multifamily, the value of your assets based on the income. While in single family, it's based correct. And then instead of houses, it's based on the comps, no matter whatever's sold in your area, right? That's what your house is worth. So I could have the apartment next to me can be worth way different if I'm running mine great and they're running theirs poorly.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's the theory, right? There's sort of some limits to it. Just because they're making no money, it's not free, right?
Yeah.
Like there's still a baseline of why people ask for price per door, because there's still a baseline of they're paying about $30,000 a door, $40,000 a door in the area.
Gotcha.
Because people can be, all right, they're just running it poorly. I can come in and run it better.
Gotcha. So what was the projected cap on this deal?
Oh man, I can't. So basically, since he was asking that 630,
gotcha,
and he was running it with so many expenses, like as is currently, it was never going to appraise out 630, right? Like, 'cause the
Gotcha.
income wasn't there. Even it had been a crazy cap rate to even get to 630, which obviously was, the market cap rate. But that's when you have to convince them, hey, like, I know they're only making, I don't even know how much they're making, 30 grand, 25 grand income now, but that's not right. Like,
Yeah,
that's basically
yeah.
your job to convince them why you think you can reduce those expenses or raise the rents. And that's what I did. I said, hey, look, these one bedrooms are renting for 650, 675 here. These two bedrooms are for this. And at this property, he's only charging 600 and 700 kind of thing. And you can
Gotcha.
say, that's why we're pretty confident we can raise these rents. And then say, look, he's paying this much for insurance. I have a quote from my insurance guy coming in lower. So I
Lower.
think he was
Gotcha.
paying about 11 grand in insurance a year. I think my guy came in at right about 8,000. So
Oh, see, so that's just chopping it off
yeah,
right there. Got
correct.
you.
So, but you got to have that proof. Like, luckily, I have a good relationship with my insurance guy for all my flips and other stuff.
Yeah.
That he's able to come pull me basically a hard quote, relatively quick. That I can show it to the lender because you can't tell them I think insurance is going to be about 8,000. Right? They're going to be
Gotcha.
like, you're not an insurance agent. So
Yeah, right. Yeah, like numbers talk. Banks, I mean, numbers
yeah,
talk. You're at a bank. That's what they do, right?
correct.
You can't
Yeah,
you can't talk theory. Like you said, you may not have had a full PowerPoint, but you still had data that you could show. Here's on my phone. What's your email? I can get this to you if we can get something working.
correct.
But you also you don't want to look so desperate as well. Like, look, banks' jobs are to lend you money, right? So like you're literally going
Correct.
in with an opportunity, but even though you're younger, you're coming in professional. I have some experience. I know this isn't a huge deal, but it's bigger than what I'm used to. But I have done my research, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you just want to look like you're in the game, right? Like know some terminology. And this applies to not just banks, but to brokers and everything once you get further in. There's a whole lot of different terminology and words that they use in commercial that they don't use in single family. And if you go check out my apartment's Instagram, I try to break some of those down from time to time on what these words mean and when to use them because sometimes it is like a barrier to entry. They want to make sure you're sophisticated and sometimes it's stupid, right? Like a lot of times when you go on LoopNet or these websites on brokers and look at prices, all these deals will say TBD by market, to be determined by market. They never actually give you a price on the actual apartment complex. I mean,
Gotcha.
the smaller ones, they might do that, like the brokers that aren't big time, but all the big ones, ARA, Newman, Knight, Frank, Cushman, Wakefield, they all just put TBD by market, TBD by market.
Gotcha.
So when you call the broker, you're not going to be like, hey, what's the asking price or what are they selling it for? What you want to
Yeah.
say is, hey, what's the whisper? And that's
Gotcha.
how you ask for what the price is in
What's
commercial
the
real estate.
whisper? That's like
Yeah,
legit.
what's the
That's
whisper? That's legitimately the phrase you use. Be like, so I'll be like, hey, Mr. Patel, I saw your listing for 123 Main Street, and I was just wondering what the whisper was on the property. And that's how you find out how much the asking price is, what they're looking to sell it for.
gotcha. See,
Yeah.
that's like some Illuminati type shit, bro. Like that's
Yeah,
crazy.
so it's like a little, secret club, right? Because if you go in there and say, hey, what's the price? The broker's going to automatically write you off. Oh, he don't even know the terminology. How is he going to
Yeah.
do deals,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly, exactly. So back to this deal. So we got the bank. They approved. So you
correct.
shopped the rates. We found out they had the best term. Now the loan, was it going to cover just the purchase or the purchase and the rehab? Like how much did you end up like
Correct.
with the inspection? And did you end up having to renegotiate? What did that look
Yes.
like?
So, um, so they would loan up to 80% of the purchase price or the value, right? So I was like, okay, cool. I'll put 20% down, so 130K down. That's gonna be a 500K loan. We were all good until the appraiser went out. And the problem with these smaller banks is they just use like local appraiser that don't really appraise commercial that much.
Mm-hmm.
Because the problem is they're gonna look at the MLS for comps, right?
Gotcha.
But multifamily comps aren't on your MLS; they're on Costar. Costar is kind of the MLS for all commercial in the United States.
Do
They
you have
literally
to
have
be
it.
like? Do you have to be? Sorry. Do you have to be
No,
licensed to be a part of that, or anybody can go look?
you got to pay a subscription fee.
Gotcha.
It's a membership. It's not cheap. Trust me.
I
I
got
think
you.
I looked at just the Houston area it was like 700 a month for the membership, just for Houston area access.
Jesus.
That's it. So I said, "What about Beaumont and Houston?" It's like, "Oh, it's 900 a month," and I was like, man, it's a little pricey. But they have the best commercial data because all they do is they have a team of people that sit there and cold call every transaction. How much did you sell this property for? Hey, what are your rents right now for this property? They just cold call all day and get real-time data.
Damn.
So, yeah,
Crazy.
so based back to what was going on, the appraiser didn't know what he was doing. He kind of just comped my property with apartments that were in a different city almost.
Oh, okay.
We got realized out in Beaumont, there's little towns left and right, but there's pockets. Where I was looking at is right above Port Arthur, Texas. It's called Nederland, but it's a very good school district. It's a very desirable area.
Gotcha.
It's more Caucasian heavy, but the median household income is very high. It's like $70,000 per household.
So a pretty
it's like
decent area.
yeah, it's a nice area. But the dude comped it with some stuff in Beaumont that was in the hood.
In the hood. I was about to say, yeah.
Like,
I know. Y'all got
in
some
the
houses down
hood.
there for cheap, bro.
Yeah. So the appraisal actually came back at like, let me think. I'm trying to think what it came back at. It came back lower than 630 is all I remember. I think it came back at 600.
Gotcha.
Or something like that. But it came back low. No, I think it was like 580. So they did do an income-based approach as well as a comp-based approach. And the income-based one came in a little higher. But the problem with that is the cap rate they used one cap rate for all of Beaumont, Port Arthur, Jefferson County.
Gotcha.
So what the cap rate is, right, is divide your income by that number, and that's your value. So let's say if the income on the apartments was $100K, a 10 cap means you would divide by 10%. So it would be valid at 1 million, basically.
1 million, gotcha.
But he was using a 10.5, and so the lower the cap rate, the more expensive the property is, right? Because 100,000 divided by 5%, it's gonna be like 2 million now, right? Double the price.
Right, yeah.
So the nice stuff has a low cap rate, the crappy stuff has a high cap rate, more or less.
Gotcha.
But he comps everything at a 10.5 cap rate.
Damn.
So if you weren't familiar with the market back in 2018, C-class buildings in Houston were selling at 6.5 cap rate.
Yeah.
So for something to sell at a 10 cap rate, it's got to be like the worst thing in the hood.
Yeah.
But he just said since Jefferson County is a tertiary market, like a very small market, they just put the whole cap rate as 10.5. So obviously that made the value of my property drop down significantly. Because at the time, I think the market was about 6.5 to 7.5 cap rate. So, I cut my value by 35% of the property.
Damn, so what you do?
So I was pissed, right? I was like, dude, this guy's retarded. He doesn't know
Yeah.
comping the hood with my property.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have access to real comps, right? He's using MLS comps that were a couple years old.
Yeah.
So I threw a little fit with the credit union. Luckily, it's a small credit union, right? So every week they had a meeting with their board of directors. Well, that's what we called it. It's probably not that many people. Like, it sounds fancy, right? But I literally had to go in there and be like, look, this is why the appraisal's wrong. This is my game plan on upping rents and decreasing expenses, because they wouldn't go off the projected stuff. They went off the actuals at the time. And I literally just had to, convince the CEO, basically. I used their slogan against them. I think the slogan was, something about growing or taking chances. And I was like,
isn't this your fucking
credit union?
your door?
You're never going to rent. You never loaned an apartment before. You want to grow or not, something like that, right? Yeah. Obviously, in a nice way.
In a nice way, got you. And so what did they end up valuing it at?
Well, so what they did instead was they kept the value, but they would loan it at 90% loan to value. Gotcha. Loan to value, their appraised value. Because at first, when I told the seller, I was like, hey, the appraisal came in low, but I'm still going to move ahead. I'll just come up with the extra $30K out of pocket and just close this deal. And the seller actually offered, he was like, hey, I respect that you want to make this deal happen. Offer you that difference, that $30K difference, at the same rate the bank's loaning you. You're loaning at 5% or something like that, right? It was some kind of killer deal.
But got creative.
Yeah, but I was going to use it, but I didn't have to use it, right? Because the bank came up on their loan to value, so I ended up getting it to them 90% loan to value, but technically 80% of purchase price.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because they just
so you still had to bring some money out of pocket, though. Yeah,
so I put 20. So I put 20% of the purchase price down. I still put 20% down, straight up.
Gotcha.
Now that's my original plan, and then I had some money that I had planned to use for. Well, actually, so I didn't. So I knew I was going to fix some stuff up, but I didn't realized how unattractive it was. So I was really there. I was like, damn, this carpet's
Gotcha.
old. These cabinets are old as hell.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, man, I gotta fix it, right? So normally, what you're supposed to do is supposed to have all this capital ready to do your capex improvements, all that to your business plan. I didn't know that at the time. I was using the cash flow. So when everyone paid rent that month, I just used all that money to start doing repairs whenever
Yeah.
money came in. You're never supposed to do that. If someone
Yeah.
says, "Oh, we pay it out of cash flow," run from them. Don't invest with them
Yeah.
because that's what people call the death spiral. When stuff just gets out of
Yeah.
control and it
You're just trying to
gets
chase. You're trying to chase
correct.
a rabbit you're never gonna catch.
You always want all the money up front. If it needs 50K of work on top of your purchase, have that 50K in the bank, whether it's your investors, your partners, yourself, and then touch that. Don't ever take it out of your cash flow distributions because that's not good. Let's just say that.
Is that? Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So we got in there. You're doing it the
Yep.
wrong. We've done two things wrong so far. The big majors, but we're
Yeah.
running off of cash flow. How long did it take to get turned around? And then where did you find the
Man.
money from the repairs? Like, are you just bringing this money from what you had, or you got another loan? And what was the turnaround?
Gotcha.
And then what did the end goal look like? And then what do you plan on doing with that
Yeah.
property?
Man, so that took about a year to turn around because I was doing it as units came up. I'd go in and renovate them, and I was just doing it out of cash flow, like I said, and just profits from my flip and wholesaling because I was still doing that during this whole time, right? I still had that machine going with the marketing, so everything was being dumped into this property. So I think technically on the first year, like tax wise, it was like a negative 30K
Yeah.
on the property because I spent so much renovating everything. I changed the siding, new signs, new front doors all around, painted everything, interior. So it was a huge, not huge, but pretty big
Big.
over the course of a year. I couldn't do it all at once, right? Because I was doing off cash flow. I didn't have the money up front like I was supposed to. So it took me all of 28. Well, I closed on it October of 2018. So it took me all of 2019 basically just to keep turning over. And actually, I had property management lined up from the beginning, but there was another problem with them. That's a whole different story.
I got you. Yeah, we'll save that one.
Yeah, that basically, but they weren't good, and they actually went out of business, and I lost about 17K
Yeah.
off that because they went bankrupt, and they had all my security deposits for my tenants. I think 1 month's worth of rent I lost out on. Well, because 1 month you got to think 14 units. That's
a lot. And
10K right there.
when you're doing repairs with that money, you need every
Yeah.
dime, right?
Exactly. So that was a lesson learned on vetting your property management a little better. The thing is, I thought I vetted them pretty well. Came with great reviews from maintenance man that worked before there. He stayed on. He said, yeah, he likes them. Other investors in the area knew who they were.
It checked
Sometimes
out,
just never works. Sometimes it just doesn't work. But yeah, besides that, just did a lot of renovations and slowly kept turning up. And what you'll learn is all the inherited tenants from the previous people are always going to be your worst tenants.
oh yeah,
Because when
They
you screen
look a
your own
certain
tenants, yeah, they're good. So I had tenant drama for about a year before I cleaned up all the bad apples, kicked them all out. Now we got a pretty good tenant base there. Everyone's quiet. It's good now. Those police reports I had to deal with before. Tenant got arrested trying to attack another tenant, and it was a mess. It was crazy, but
Gotcha.
yeah, so it took about a year to stabilize. Yeah.
You got it turned around, and then now, like, what did you do after the year it stabilized? Did you get another loan? Did you refi out? Like, or you plan to? Like, what's the goal?
Correct. No, so I mean, I still have the current loan right now. Yeah, rates have dropped right now, but just not worth it for me to refi for closing costs and everything again. It's not like I have increased it. I've increased the value, but a lot of the local credit unions, if I refi them, they're not going to know how to value them properly, right?
Gotcha.
It's not like so much that I can get $1 million loan from Freddie Mac now, right? It's
Gotcha.
still under $1 million. So I'll just keep it. What actually happened is they had forbearance last month for like the coronavirus stuff, and I took advantage of that. So they would just take off 3 months of payments and just toss it at the end of the loan. No extra interest, nothing due in 3 months at once, kind of thing. I made it very clear. Like I sent redundant emails clarifying everything.
Yeah. Because I think people hear forbearance and they're like, "Fucking, I ain't gotta pay my mortgage," and you don't realize like 6 months you got to pay that and interest. Like, and they want all their money right now. And then like you were even telling me, I think it was you and a couple other people were telling me how it affects you negatively. You want to be able to like refinance or like do other things once you like agreed to forbearance. So it's like a lot of things like you need to know what you're getting
Correct.
yourself into, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot of fine print you got to get used to. Like, because for our 32 unit right now, Freddie Mac was offering forbearance, but if you were to take their offer, you couldn't evict anyone. Like,
Damn.
for the duration of the forbearance. I mean, you can't really evict anyone right now in Texas, anyways. The
Yeah,
governor's put a halt on it, but just giving up that all your rights just to not pay that mortgage. Me and my partners on that 32 unit decided not to take the forbearance. Right,
got you. So
it's
what's
still
so
going.
what's the long term play with it though? Just keep it forever, or maybe refinance out or sell it, or
Man, yeah. So this 14 unit, since I made all the mistakes on it, it's gonna it's cash flowing now, right? 2019 was a loss, paper loss, and I mean it's always gonna be a paper loss because of how the tax benefits you can use.
depreciation and everything? Yeah,
Correct. But this one, I don't mind keeping it a while because I've spent so much in upgrades, foundation work, signs, front doors, so I can. Everything is to the point now where everything's so new inside the units that turnover it's two
it's
three
not.
day make ready. Yeah,
Got you.
like I had a 1 bedroom move out. All I do is touch up, paint a little few things, change a few towel bars, clean it, it's good to go. So like,
Got you.
I might just hold on to this one a little longer. At first, I thought about 5 years because most syndicators they exit in 5 years because there's a certain sweet spot, right, where you get your internal rate of return for investors, your IRR. Because IRR is basically your return, your cash on cash return plus time
Got
calculated.
you.
Because the time value of money, right, is keep getting 10%. Eventually, it's less than 10% because of all the time it's spent.
Yeah,
So most people that have investors that need to hit a certain target always kind of exit in 3 to 5 years. Since I own this one outright myself, then like I don't have any pressure on when to sell it, what kind of returns to hit. I can just keep it cash flowing. You know what I mean?
got you. So what is the cash flow? Like you said, you'll do better this year. What's that look like?
Man, I'm hoping I should be getting about 10,000 a month in gross income, and
Okay,
then I think I can keep my expenses to about half of that.
gotcha.
So I'll probably be about 60,000 NOI, and then my mortgage payment is about just under 3,000 a month. So you take that out, take that 36 out, you're about 24,000,
Gotcha.
$24,000. I'm probably gonna hit 25,000 because I don't have property management. I'm self managing right
Gotcha.
now, and then I'd say I'm all in just under 200,000 now in terms of all the renovations I've done, and then that 130 down payment. So that's about 12% cash on cash return.
And then, oh
So
yeah, you said the renovations you were paying through, but normally, like now, like say with this new apartment, we can
correct.
run through it really quick. So you've purchased that 14 unit, and then this is the second big purchase, or you've made more in between. I know you've wholesaled some
Yeah,
apartments and stuff with some
correct.
people and stuff like that, but what about like actual purchases yourself? And are you is it just
Correct.
you on this new deal, or multiple people? And what does that look like?
Yeah, so like Derek said, I wholesaled some smaller ones. I wish I had just closed on it and wholesaled them. I wish I wholesaled them versus wholesaled them because the people
Gotcha.
we wholesaled it to wholesale it
And
and made
made
more
yeah.
money than we did.
Yeah,
So
I remember we were at the title company and Casey told us about that shit.
yeah, so I'm not. It is what it is. But no, I'm actually between this one and the 32 unit, I did some more passive investing. So when you syndicate, right? Normally everyone wants to be the active, the GP, the general partner, who's running the
Gotcha.
whole show.
Oh, gotcha.
But they raise capital from the limited partners who just give them the money, but are silent investors. They don't. But that's what's truly passive. Like,
Gotcha.
yeah, rentals are pretty passive, but you still got to work. You still got to manage the management company, repairs, and all this stuff. As a passive investor, you literally cut them the check and you sit back and get mailbox money.
Yeah.
And they send you updates and stuff. So I did some more passive investing to kind of, dip my toes in different things and kind of see how other people operate their syndications. And then I can learn, oh, I don't like how they communicate this, or I like how they did this kind of communication. I'm going to use that when I actually have more investors I need to talk to. You know what I'm saying? So that
Gotcha.
way I threw money passively to there's a 90 unit deal in Fort Worth that I'm invested in that, man, great location, right by TCU, right by Whole Foods.
Oh, nice.
That was like I think a $10 million purchase for 90 units. It was just under 100,000 a door, but
Oh, nice. So
it's
what's
been
the play
100%
on that? So
occupied.
like passively, what is the type of return you're getting, and like is there an
Yes.
exit on that one as well?
Correct. So right now they're targeting about 8% passively during the year, cash on cash, and then on the sale, like after the appreciation and everything, going to hit about 15 to 17%
Oh, no.
return every year on your initial money. So after 5 years, that's like 1.5 times what you put in,
Gotcha.
essentially. But no, right now, I mean, I think the play is still to sell it in about 4 or 5 years. We'll
Gotcha.
see what they do with coronavirus going on. I mean, it's still 100% occupied. It's been 100% occupied since they bought it in December.
So,
Um, so who knows? I mean, it's a great area, so I don't mind if they have to hold it onto it longer, just because I know good school district right by TCU, it's going to appreciate. So
yeah.
I mean,
No,
I don't, yeah, I
that's
can't leave it
good.
up to their hands, like. So when you start investing in syndication, when you start raising money, you realize people only invest with people they know, that they like, and that they trust. Know, like, and trust. It isn't really about the deal. Yeah, you do your basic due diligence on the deal, but it's really you trust the operator. Like I trusted this guy. I know his track record. Cut him the
Yeah,
check, right?
I was gonna say like how did you even find this guy and did you put in a little bit of money, a lot of money? Like you don't have to give exact figures, but
Yeah, no, I put a little bit in. So just for reference for you guys, I think that's the best way to get started. I didn't know that back then, but once I started going to conferences and meetups just for multifamily, I learned, oh, most people how they get in the game is they first invest passively with 3 or 4 syndications to learn it from the sidelines, and then they sign on as a key partner, a KP on a loan. That basically just gives you experience. It's a whole
gotcha.
other topic I'll dig into. But to get a loan with Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae, you have to have Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac experience. It's like a chicken and the egg thing, right? You
Gotcha.
need the experience to get the loan, but you can't get the loan without experience. So a lot of times they sign on as key partners to the general partners to get their name on that loan signature to get that
Gotcha.
experience. And then eventually the last step is you are the GP and you run the show yourself. So obviously I didn't follow that route because I didn't know that was the preferred route
Yeah,
that
you
most
did
people take.
everything wrong,
Yeah.
right? But if you don't know,
Yes.
you don't know. But this is why you're on
Correct.
here showing us because I
Yeah.
know,
Don't
like
make those same mistakes. Yeah.
yeah, because like I think when you bought that original apartment, like I was gonna invest a little. It's just where I'm at
Correct.
financially, but it's good knowing like when I
Correct.
go moving forward in the next couple of years when I have money, that's like you know what I'm saying. I'm coming to you. What are we doing?
Correct.
And I just want to learn and build up because obviously that's why I like doing these, bro. And that's why like I'm just so thankful. Like I see
Yes.
Marlon and everybody on here, like so happy to have you guys as friends because I am not the
Yeah.
smartest guy.
Support
Like
man.
right? Like, and like you said, we're not out here alone, and we're all on the same mission. And this is like, bro, this
Correct.
is free. Like, I wish I could have learned stuff like this when I first got started. So it's like people, if you wanted to
Oh man,
skip
shortcuts
single
everything. Yeah.
family, like you could just hop into multifamily if you had a good job. Like, it's just based on what your situation is. And I know you still
Correct.
use your job to help get financing and things like that. So it's just good to see, you
Correct.
know that's why we do this is because like I get to level up in life because you did shit the wrong way, but you're gonna bring me, I'll bring more people, and we get to give back as well. It's just like a never ending cycle
Exactly.
of being a go giver, bro. Right? Like that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Like so,
It's all
I think
about
that.
man. Yeah.
So let's just I got one more question and then we can if you
Correct.
guys want to start
Yeah.
asking questions feel free because
It's
we got
almost
about
8:30.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got 10 minutes and they will cut us off. But real quick, like, what is your goal moving forward? Like, do you only want to do multifamily? Do you still want to do single family? When are you going to quit your job and things like that?
Gotcha. Gotcha. No. Yeah. So obviously multifamily is the goal. I mean, a lot of people are scared of it right now. I think renters and coronavirus they think it's a bad deal right now. I think give it 3 or 4 months. There's gonna be some good deals on the market. So right now I'm just stacking capital, getting investors ready, give them a heads up. Hey, get some cash liquid, go forward on some deals coming forward, kind of thing. I'm still wholesaling. Like I said, right now I have a flip next door, but it's only because it's next door. Because flips are very time
Yeah, like
intensive, as you
literally.
know, so super
Yeah,
time intensive. And at one point, you got to really decide if multifamily is what I want to do. It's a lot of stuff you have to do. You be talking to brokers all the time, all this stuff. But when you're trying to find the right toilet and the right tub to fit your new shower, like that takes away time. That so
yeah.
I might still keep the wholesaling, but I might really cut out the flipping since it's so time intensive.
Hmm.
And I mean, one thing I just want to touch on really quick, because I know that's kind of what you want to talk about, was during this specific time, coronavirus. So I mean, I'm assuming not many of your followers are going to have apartments, but if you have single family homes, just any rental in general, this is kind of going to apply. What we're doing right now. And what I wanted to do was for your listeners or whatever, I was going to give a free template of the same letter I sent out to my tenants on
Oh,
how to handle
nice.
coronavirus. So yeah, they
Okay.
want to DM me, hey, can I get a letter template? Because it will just show that you're a proactive landlord, of coronavirus. Stuff we're doing is we're telling them, hey, we're stopping maintenance unless it's emergency maintenance. We're telling them, normally I don't take partial payments, but right now we're doing payment plans if they need to.
If they need
So
to, yeah,
no
absolutely.
late fees at all. Payment plans, but when you do a payment plan with someone, make sure you sign a separate agreement and put as like an addendum to the lease or something. Don't just verbally create one, right?
Yeah,
Always have a separate agreement and add that in. And I mean, for renewals right now, like if a lease is coming up, say a 1 year lease, which is standard, we're just renewing everything without raising rents. But we're not doing a 1 year renewal. We're doing month to month, or if we have to do not a month to month, we do a 3 month lease because the end goal is to bump rents if it's not already at market
got
value.
it. Yeah, got
And
you,
you don't want
got
to
you.
lock it in for that same price for another year
Yeah,
if Corona
yeah,
blows over next month, right? So
yeah.
we're keeping all that on month to month. Obviously, new units we're going to try to lease up at our newer rates that we're trying to get, and that's been successful so far. I haven't seen a slowdown at my units. I've actually been tons of increase still on units right now at the rates I want, so I'm happy with that. But yeah, so I mean, all our big projects like this 32 unit we just bought, we're gonna do all these things to it. New lights all around, fix the potholes in the driveway, giant fence, all these things. We just scrapped all of it, put it on hold. Like if it isn't emergency right now, we're not spending any money on anything. We want to
Got
be
you.
liquid right now. Like we had all this money reserves saved up. We had like over 200K ready to just deploy in this property. But like I have a post on my apartments page that we were about to close the deal, and our lender, Freddie Mac, came back and said, "Oh, we're not doing loans at all." I think this was March 24th. They
Damn,
stopped all loans in the whole country. Everything
damn.
was just put in limbo, and everyone didn't know what was going on. I had to call the seller because we were closing the next day. Say, hey, we can't close tomorrow anymore. Title
Yeah.
company had to
Talk
call
about
them. Hey,
that
we
phone
can't
call.
close.
Talk about that phone
Yeah,
call. Yeah,
and this is a seller I've worked since last July,
got
and
you.
he was
So
waiting for his money.
in this deal, then is you brought the deal to the table for everybody, or
Correct. So I actually found this deal through cold calling. Like I paid a subscription to this commercial real estate site. They're kind of like a competitor to CoStar, but I paid for the subscription. You can pull, lists like that. And I cold called him, mailed him, and worked him like I worked the first guy. Not a year and a half, but like about 8, 9 months on this one.
gotcha.
Off market, true off market deal. And I brought it, and I just brought in two partners. I think you asked earlier how I bought this. But me
Yeah,
and two partners, we split it a third, a third, a third, and we just came in and bought this thing. So
gotcha. And
that's where we're at on that.
how do you know them? Just relationships, or
Just networking, man. I went to a conference in Dallas, multifamily conference, met them there. They live in Houston, so got lunch one day. I said, hey, got a deal if you're interested. So networking is key, guys. Just
bro?
meet
Yeah,
people.
yeah. Like, literally, I mean, that's how we met, bro. We did
Yeah,
deals for like probably over a year and a half before we even met
without
in
ever meeting in
person,
person.
bro.
Not even a
That's
FaceTime or anything. Just
like nothing. Just text
text
and
messages. That's it.
yeah, and text and trust. But I mean, the people that we were connected with, we're all the same, bro.
Correct.
Nobody's greedy. Everybody wants to see us win. And at the time, I needed money, so I didn't even give a shit like what I made. I was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
But like that's the joy of Instagram, this, and everything, bro. Our whole circle in Houston, like there's so many people
Correct.
killing it. And like that's just
Yep.
what I
Yep.
love, bro. Like it's just it's a good time, bro. Like if you have that's why we keep talking about like doing something. I know before Corona shut us down, we were supposed to be. I was supposed to go to Arizona last weekend. We're supposed to be going to Turks in a couple of weeks, bro. Like it just
Yep.
kind of
Turks
fucked
and
up
Caicos, man.
everything. But we're gonna go back, bro, and we're gonna get it. But it's just good to know that if you want to
Yep.
do Airbnb, if you want to do apartments, like be a realtor, it doesn't matter in the real estate space. There's someone that we can call. So I guess nobody really has any questions. I don't know if it's just a higher level or what, but I'm going to tag you obviously afterwards. So you're going to give the free letter, and obviously
Correct.
people reach out like if you have questions. We're going to be doing more
Correct.
stuff. Once this whole Corona thing is over, like for sure we have more content, maybe like a live event or something, maybe even online. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Correct.
Yes, TJ, we got to reschedule the trip, but
Yeah.
what are some things like apartment that you would like leave people with, about this?
Man, yes, I barely scratched the surface, guys. Like talked more about like my first deal and stuff, but that doesn't really apply to some of these bigger stuff because I think you shouldn't waste your time getting into these smaller ones because they're more time intensive, they're harder to fund. If you can go straight to syndicating 90 plus units, deals over 2-3 million, it's really honestly the same amount of work or less as closing this 14 unit. Is what I
Gotcha.
learned closing. So I closed a 32 unit. I was over $1 million, and then I was like, man, I could have closed a $10 million deal the same amount of work.
Yeah, your
You
mind
know,
just expands, right? Like you're like,
correct.
fuck it, I'm buying a hotel tomorrow. Like,
Yeah. But I do want to give one gem for all you renters out there. When you're screening tenants, because that's your make or break, right? You don't want vacancies. A turnover every year is not ideal. You want them to stay at least 2 or 3 years. What I do on my application is I always put the current landlord and the one before that. And I almost never even talk about the first landlord because if they're a bad tenant, that guy's going to be like, oh, yeah, they're great to get them out of their property into your property. So you always want to ask for 2 or 3 rental references and really focus on the previous one and the third one back, not the current one, to
gotcha.
really get an idea if they're a good or bad tenant. That's something I had to learn the hard way as well, you know?
Yeah, and that applies for
So,
single and multi. Like
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
definitely because
Single
I know
family, whatever.
I have a few like you know what I mean when it comes to that credit report and when it comes to
Yep.
you know legalities. Have you have a felony? What was that felony for? Am I willing to take that chance? So I definitely think so. Bro, this has like been super crazy. I see a couple
See a couple.
questions.
Yeah.
So we got like three
Nicole,
minutes.
I'll go with Nicole first. Where did you find the Capital Syndicate? So that's really where networking comes in. If you go to all these multifamily events, there's a ton. Start Googling multifamily events. There's the Brad Sumrock conferences in Texas. Michael Blanc has some. Joe Fairless has some. Jake and Gino, some of these big syndicators. Once you start going to all these events, you start seeing the same people. That's it. Like, I went to an event in LA in January. Went to one in Houston, saw basically the same people everywhere. And the kind of thing is, all other syndicators, we always throw money in each other's deals. Like I know a big guy out in Houston, Michael Lee. He's the manager or GP of about 7 deals, but he's passively invested in about 35 deals. So
Damn.
just because someone's a syndicator doesn't mean they won't be a passive investor as well. Because, like I said, syndication is still work, while passive is truly passive. So you get to know each other, and then you can partner with people. Say you get a big deal, but you're not a big time syndicator. You don't have the funds. You can partner with another syndicator and be co-syndicators, but they can raise the funds for you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it comes back down to networking to raise that money, right?
And if you're playing in that big of scale, bro, people with money, they know people with money.
Yeah, yeah. Trust me. There's too much money and not enough deals. Let's just say that right now.
Yeah.
And then EB Thoughts says, do you still use list source for commercial property? So no, I don't use list source. Like I said, the 2 main options right now are CoStar, which is very expensive, or what I use is Reonomy, Reonomy, Reonomy. They're a newer company. They're fighting with CoStar right now. They're a little cheaper. That's the only reason I went with them, because they're cheaper.
Yeah, yeah. Or like you said, guys, you can get out, hit the pavement, drive. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Make your own list. Yeah, and I think
like I said, that's for the smaller ones. That's mainly for the under 50 units. For those big ones, man, it's all brokers. Every market has about 5 brokers that control 80% of the deals. Are 5 brokers. You want to find those 5 brokers and just keep networking, keep talking to them, always reach out, analyze their deals quickly, respond to them quickly. Because, like Houston, there's only 5 guys: Tom Wilkinson, Jeffrey Phipps, Russell Jones, Ed Cummins, and what's his face, the other guy. They control almost all the deals in Houston. Like, doesn't matter. That's why it's an unfair game. I can tell you guys, and you guys can go talk to them, but you're not going to get any pocket deals, like off-market deals, because they already have all these people. Like the Sumrock group, they have guys that dedicated in that group to just play golf with brokers. They golf 6 days a week with brokers.
Yeah,
that's their job.
Yeah.
That's what they get paid to do. So they get their group gets all the deals first look. Gotcha. So all these good deals fly off the market from these pocket listings from relationships. So the smaller ones, yes, pull some lists from CoStar, Reonomy, Driving for Dollars. But when you want the bigger real deals, like 200 units, 300 units, all through brokers.
Gotcha.
All through brokers. You can't do any other way. I'm sorry.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, look, guys, it's about to cut us off. If you have questions, I'm going to tag Adriel after this for both of his pages. Correct. I appreciate your time, my guy. Obviously, I'll be talking to you
tonight.
So you have a great one, bro.
You too. Thanks, man.